Lots of people talk about chasing their dreams, but how many actually do it? Welcome to the Pursue Your Passion podcast with Tyler Kamerman. We're going to introduce you to people who are intentionally pursuing their passion every day. Through their stories of success and their struggles, you'll gain insight into how to better begin or continue your journey. Now here's Tyler with today's guest.
Welcome back, Passion Pursuers. You get a double dose of Kamermans today. Tyler, your host, with you as always. And today I am excited to welcome my lovely bride, Jessica, back to the show. Say hi, Jess.
Hi.
Jessica, as I've already said, is my wife. She's a mom to our two kids. She is a realtor extraordinaire. She has her practice with Keller Williams, located in the West Des Moines office. And she was on here a couple years ago talking about being a realtor and why that's important to her. And that continues to be a huge part of who she is. But as you know, if you've been listening to the show, we have been on quite a journey over the course of the last year and a half, almost 2 years now. And she has been the driving force of that. And that has led her down some different paths. And that's really why I wanted her to come back on the show. So Jess, tell us about the passion or passions that you're currently pursuing.
Well, as the listeners know, we've been on this journey with our daughter with Hashimoto's, an autoimmune condition. And with that, we reached out to functional medicine. I did some research on my own. Great book by Isabella Wentz called The Root Cause, and just kind of started diving into what is autoimmune and how do you manage it on the day-to-day. And ultimately what ended up happening is I ended up having to step away from my real estate practice last year, not completely, but definitely wasn't working that full steam. And what we did was we entered into what's called the Autoimmune Protocol. And it is a dietary foundation for dealing with autoimmune symptoms. And what we found was it was really hard for that first year. And it, like I said, I had to step away from my business in order to kind of get that going. And ultimately, I think if you're an adult and you're trying to do autoimmune and you aren't thinking about it from the family aspect, I think it can be relatively easy. I think you can go very simple, but we have two children. And so we decided to do it as a family. And the family piece, I think, is what made it a little bit more complicated. Did you want to stop me there for a second?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I wanted to back up just for a second because I know a lot of people have learned about the story from tuning in, but back up a little bit and talk a little bit about Hashimoto's. I mean, you don't have to talk for a half hour, but talk about a little bit about the diagnosis, how connecting with Dr. Ray, and how we take a few minutes to talk about how we got to hey, we're going to jump into an autoimmune protocol.
Gosh,
because there's the whole thyroid piece and the medicine and that only treats the symptoms, blah, blah, blah. Give a little bit on that.
Yeah. So, and honestly, a lot of it is a blur now looking back on it because it's oh my goodness, it feels so long ago, yet it really isn't that long ago. So when Ari was diagnosed, she was in 5th grade, right?
July of 24.
Yeah. So she had just finished up. So it was the 4th grade, you said?
5th.
Fifth, yeah. So when we got the diagnosis, she had just finished up 5th grade, but we had been in to the doctor prior to school being out. It was toward the end of the school year.
Yep.
And she's had some symptoms pretty much her entire life. And gosh, I mean, I could go down a million rabbit holes here. what I've learned is that thankfully everything is in our medical app on the phone. And so there are things that we found out in working with Dr. Ray that I can go back and look at when she was born, and she was deficient in some of these things at birth, that if we maybe would have known some of that, it might have helped us get to where we are a little bit quicker. But ultimately, she was having symptoms, and her main symptom was like stomach pain and constipation. And being in the nurse's office a lot, she was having a lot of acid reflux. And so we had sent Tums to school, and I had her in to get checked for strep. And I will tell you, that is something else. This girl has strep all the time. And so I had taken her in, and we have a really great pediatrician. And she was like feeling around. She was kind of looking through everything. And she said, you know what? We're going to do blood work, and we're going to run the whole gamut. We're going to take her in for an ultrasound to check and see, what the constipation, all of that looks like. She would be so mortified to know that I'm talking about this.
I was just thinking the same thing.
But so we get the ultrasound. Yes, she's very constipated. And then they do the blood work, and then we have to kind of wait for the blood work to come back. Well, when the blood work comes back, she is off the chart with antibodies. And so I don't know how far in the weeds you want me to get, but like antibodies, basically it's the way the thyroid function works is it's kind of this feedback loop, right? So your pituitary gland is sending antibodies to the thyroid. The thyroid is then converting those antibodies into T4 and free T4 that then get used by your body how things are supposed to be used. Well,
Sure.
What happens in Hashimoto's is the pituitary gland is basically your body is attacking that thyroid gland. So it's constantly sending those antibodies to the thyroid, but the thyroid in Hashimoto's, it can't convert it to the T4. So then you just have all of these antibodies that aren't doing anything, that are actually destroying the thyroid. So there are medications, right? So there's Synthroid, there's Levo, there's some dissected pig stuff. I've researched all of it. Initially they wanted to put her on, so we got sent to the endocrinologist. The
Right.
endocrinologist couldn't get us in right away, so go into mom mode, right? Okay, we've been diagnosed with an autoimmune. What does that mean? I need to do the research. I need to figure out what's going on. Having doctored with my mom, and not saying anything against the medical profession, they do what they've been they do what they've been taught to do. Right? They do what they've been trained to do. And that is to treat not necessarily the whole person, but to just stop the one problem without looking at what else might be going on. So I reached out to a realtor that I work with. I reached out to his wife, Sarah Grantham. She's fantastic. She is a doula. She used to work as a nurse and has gotten into the functional side of things. So I immediately reached out to Sarah, said, here's what we have going on. She recommended a gal in Colorado, but then she recommended the book, Root Cause by Isabella Wentz. So I immediately ordered that. And then I had another wonderful friend, Andrea Hackett, who, as I was talking through things with her, she said, hey, have you thought about finding a parent support group on Facebook of kids that are going through the same thing? And doing that, I found Dr. Ray Benedetto, and he's been on the show, and he is wonderful. And what attracted me to him was the fact that he was giving away resources and information for free. And he is not here local. We went and saw someone locally. She was great. She wanted us to pay for 1 million tests.
Yeah.
And, which was fine. We had our consultation. I mean, it's not necessarily wrong, but in talking with and working with Dr. Ray, he was like, we're dealing with a child here. And to back up, Dr. Ray's wife has Hashimoto's. The man has been specifically running his functional business geared toward remission from Hashimoto's. So I felt really, really comfortable with his knowledge, that and the fact that he was giving a lot of it away for free.
Yep.
And so after talking with him, he was like, she's young enough that, if you haven't seen mold in your house, if there aren't environmental things that you've seen her kind of being exposed to, she hasn't been on the earth long enough to have that toxic overload like most adults would. So there are some tests that I don't think we need to do for her. And that for me kind of sealed the deal, because it was like, I don't want to put her through all of this litany of testing. What he did recommend was genetic testing, which was super easy to do. We did it through Ancestry. There was a deal on Amazon. We decided to do it for the whole family because there was a deal, and who doesn't like to spit in a tube and send it off and find out what's going on with you?
Yeah, I mean, I learned that I don't get a runner's high, which I already knew,
Right.
because I never have fun when I'm running. Anyway.
But we learned that our son does, and he does.
And he does.
Yeah. And, for me, I tend to be a little bit more deficient in some of the same things as Ari does.
Yeah.
So, and we've got thyroid issues on your side of the family. We've got thyroid issues on my dad's side of the family.
Right.
So there's a lot of genetic history there too. But ultimately, to circle back,
Yep.
the pituitary gland and kind of what it does is it's shooting that information. There is medication for it. The medication does not stop the pituitary gland from attacking the thyroid. All it does is help to create fake T4 in the body, which then kind of signals to the pituitary gland, hey, there's T4 here. So you don't need to send all of these antibodies. So it takes the load off a little bit, but it in no way, shape, or form does it fix or solve the problem. Because the problem is that the thyroid itself isn't converting the antibodies into T4. So the goal is to try and get that kind of functioning again, or to slow that that beating that the thyroid is taking down, to extend the life of the thyroid for somebody. Because if you think about somebody who's 10 years old who's diagnosed with this, that's pretty early. If we don't get a handle on this, her thyroid's going to be gone rather quickly. But because the pituitary gland is so important in brain development, because the hormones that your thyroid produces are so important in brain development and growth and all of those things. And talking with Dr. Ray, no matter where we get her on this journey as far as remission goes, she will likely stay. She's on levothyroxine. She's on the lowest dose. Thought that they were going to have to up it because we kind of went off protocol a little bit, and then did some blood tests, and they were like, we want to up it. And I said, give me 3 months. And they gave me 3 months, and we went back in. Actually, it was longer than that, but I digress. But by the time we went back in, we had gotten things, back handled food wise, and her numbers, they did not want to increase her level. So that's been our experience, is that doing this protocol has allowed us to stay on that lowest dose of levothyroxine to get her through puberty and to get her through full brain development. And then we can look at, okay, what does it look like to maybe get you off of this medication? And can you, as a semi-formed adult, can you handle this on your own in a way that you're going to feel okay?
Yeah. Yep.
Is that what you wanted?
No, yeah, that's great. That's great. So that's kind of the beginning part of the process, and the why, and how you got connected with Dr. Ray, and we started down the AIP journey. Maybe talk a little bit. About what a week looks like in our in your process.
ultimately, on Thursday or Friday, I am planning the next week's menu. And when we started out, it I was doing things likely a little more complex than I am now. Like I was having desserts. I wanted to make it fun before it became a lifestyle, right? Especially with two kids. Now it's just our lifestyle. But in the beginning, it was like, okay, I want to try, and we were trying new things as well to kind of figure out, what does everybody like? What vegetables does everybody like? What meats? Things for, like, our son hates chicken. It's so annoying, and we eat so much chicken. We just have to eat so much chicken. But and he hates it, and it is what it is. And now apparently he doesn't like my muffins either. So hard.
Great.
But so it's taking into consideration, what do people like? Because I try and be mindful of that, because this, as restrictive as this can be, I want it to be edible.
Right.
And I want it to be things that our family can enjoy, like that they enjoy the food, that it's not just nutritious, but that it's also enjoyable. So, and we found over time, I've got like 70 some weeks of menus that I've put together. A lot of them are now repeats. Like, we kind of recycle a lot because we know what people like and we know kind of what's easy. But yeah, so I sit down on Thursday or Friday, and I actually created a GPT within Chat GPT as I have been doing this. It's not perfect; it still needs some tweaks. But I put together like rules for our family because on what is it, on Saturday nights we generally have our redneck charcuterie tray, and popcorn, which popcorn is not a part of the AIP. That is something we have been able to add back in. And there are still times that I'm like, as much as we love it, but that's the thing, right? You can do it 100%, and you do that for the 90 days. That's part of this program. But then once you're past that and you are starting to bring things back in, you may recognize that there is something that actually doesn't sit well with your body, but you're willing to take that hit, because you enjoy the food, and that's okay. It doesn't ruin everything that you've done up until that point.
Yeah. And I asked you about your week, and I should have first jumped back in. Sorry. What did that initial AIP look like? Like, let's put a pin on your week, because we kind of bounced away from that. Like, because I used to, and I was just talking to somebody this morning, who, we'll probably end up connecting you with, whose wife just got diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And I joke, but it's the truth. It was like, when we first started this thing, it was easier to say what we were eating than what we weren't. I mean, it's basically organic fruits and vegetables and unprocessed meat, the end. Like, that was pretty much it to start.
Oh, but not even all vegetables.
Right. So that's where I like, let's back up from the question that I asked you about what your week looks like. And you don't have to walk through the whole AIP process, but like, talk about where we started.
So we started with it's called a full elimination, and we eased into it because I had the book by Isabella Wentz, and then she also has a food pharmacology book, where she kind of walks. So that's where I started, was really with Isabella Wentz, who, she's incredible. She's a pharmacist who was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and so even as a pharmacist, she realized that the medication didn't actually help her symptoms.
Right.
And so while it might have stopped the antibodies, she still felt miserable. And so that's where the food piece comes in, is it hits the symptoms. And so I had read that. I'd gotten the other book, the food pharmacology book. So we had started the gradual elimination process when I very first met with Dr. Ray. So we were already on track. He was like, man, he's like, I wish more people did this ahead of time. Because when we started with him, then it was the full elimination. And so What does that elimination mean? It means no gluten, dairy, soy, nightshades, no coffees. Gosh, and really at first it's no fruit, because you're cutting out all sugars. I mean, and when you look into those categories and what they no processed foods,
Right.
no nitrates, which we live in Iowa. That's not an easy thing. And and meat as well. Organic, grass fed as much as possible, no hormones, no antibiotics. Same thing with your fruits and vegetables. But I mean, it really root vegetables are okay. Interestingly enough, a potato is not a root vegetable. It is a nightshade.
As are
So
tomatoes, which was our
as
daughter's favorite vegetable, hands down favorite.
yes, yes. And ultimately, what we have found out through this process is tomatoes aren't good for her.
Right.
They don't do well in her body. And I really thought that that was going to be a harder give up for her. She hasn't complained about it once because I think eating them and feeling like and feeling the effects of what that food did to her body, it was so much easier for her to say, you know what? I'm good not eating tomatoes.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the point. What you just said there is so you reset down to like a handful of things that you're eating and then slowly like one thing a week because you have to give your body time to understand if it likes it or not. You start adding things back in, right?
Yeah. And the thing I missed is also no eggs. No
Right.
eggs,
That was
no carbs, so no rice, um, nothing. It is literally meat and vegetables, pretty much, and special meat and
yeah.
special vegetables.
Right. Right. So, I mean, I will say, from a there's a bunch of reasons why I wanted to have Jess come on here and talk about this because she's the one that did all the work. I mean, she did all the research. I help in the kitchen. I help with grocery shopping, but like she's the one that understands. I talk of like layman's terms about all this stuff. I don't understand how it all works, but I know for me, when we were able to add eggs back in, that was huge. When we were able to add back in some specific types of rice, that opened up doors for some new dishes. And just like, I mean, lunch today is, orange chicken and we get to have rice with it, and so there's like this process of adding these foods back in as long as they're okay, as long as Ari doesn't react to them.
Yeah. So ultimately, your first 30 days is that elimination. And then the next 60 days is slowly and very intentionally watching what your body does as you add foods back in. And yeah, there were definitely things that we couldn't add back in. And it was interesting. The thing that why I love that we did this as a family is because each of us have different things that don't serve our bodies well.
Right.
And so, kind of learning those things about our individual bodies too. But the goal ultimately is you kind of end up in this like personalized paleo-esque space where you know what foods are good for your body, and that's what you eat.
Yep. Yep. And so we've landed at that spot, I mean, and I will say, there's ancillary benefits to this as well. As a family, 6 months into this, collectively we lost 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Between the four of us, Ian, our son, being the biggest loser, but
You being second,
yeah,
guys.
yeah. But like Jess said, you kind of figure out this groove. Now we've probably strayed from it even in the last couple months more than we should. But I what I appreciate is the fact that Ari is figuring out the things that make her feel like garbage, and for the most part, making the decision not to eat those things. But I wanted you to talk through that process and at least give people a baseline, because since then you have made the decision that like, hey, I've got all this knowledge. I want to be a resource for other people. So talk about how you kind of got to that and what shape that is starting to take.
Yeah. So I think where that kind of came from was, toward the end of the year last year, I was like, oh my gosh, like I basically had to take a year. I mean, it was pretty much like because taxes are coming up and I looked at everything and it was pretty much a full year that I stepped away from my business. And if I can save another family from having to go through that, because ultimately, here's the thing, your grocery bill goes up about 3 times. And then you pull somebody out of the workforce in order to manage all of this. Because, friends, you are preparing breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and any snacks that you're going to eat. So, I mean, it is. And when you think about doing that for a family of 4, it is really hard not to be in the kitchen all of the time. And there were seasons of like depression through that too, because I was in my kitchen all the time. I wasn't socializing with anybody. I'd go into my office every now and then. And it was like, oh, it's so good to be around people, because this was my life. But I wouldn't change it for anything, because I look and I see how my daughter feels now, and I see where we've been able to come from that year. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. But yeah, and I mean, looking at all of those things, I was like, well, I don't want other people to have to go through this, especially families,
Yeah.
And something that I recognized within this as well is, oh, I've kind of like done the work of going through all of the AIP recipes out there and kind of really creating a catalog of meals that kids like.
Right.
And so that's kind of where it started was, I need to share this because I know other people are struggling, and I don't want them to have to go through that. And it's nice having somebody who's been through it, who can help you. And I've had, even just this last week, I've had two friends. One friend has just, I think she's gotten through 4 weeks of the AIP. She doesn't have Hashimoto's, but she has another autoimmune condition,
Right.
fibromyalgia. And she is seeing insane benefits as well, just from the 4 weeks of doing the AIP. And then I've got another friend who's got a whole litany of diagnoses, and she's also trying to wrap her head around doing this, and I've been a resource for her as well. But I think it's just, I felt really alone starting this. I had Dr. Ray.
Right.
I had my Isabella Wentz books. And I had the parent group on Facebook, but a lot of times, I mean, they're in the same kind of chaos that I'm in, right? And so a lot of times that's just looking for a quick solution or answer to a certain thing that's happening. It's not like there was a lot of relationship building happening there
Or
either.
to just go and complain and talk about how things aren't working.
Right. Which, there needs to be space for that too.
Right.
But there are a couple of moms that I did that reached out to me just because in that group, I was like, here's what we've been doing. Here's the success we're seeing. And I would tell them all the time, like, you can message me. And there are a couple of moms that messaged me and, that I helped kind of walk through some of that stuff too. And I think that's where it stemmed from, really.
Yeah. So let's talk about what it is. So what are you doing? How is this coming to fruition for you?
So it's still a work in progress. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be. What it is right now is a Facebook page
Yep.
called Nourish and Heal. Is it Nourish and Heal with Jess or Nourish and Heal with Jess AIP for families? And I did that because it's not necessarily targeted at Hashimoto's. It's anybody who's dealing with any autoimmune condition can jump on here, and it's every now and then I do a reel, I share a recipe, I share something I haven't quite figured out what it is and how I'm going to get people there and what I'm going to do with it. And here's the thing. I do want to offer some things for free to people, but I also spent a year of my life away from my business and away from social settings, and there's some monetary value to that too. And I want people to hear this. It doesn't mean that you are greedy, and it doesn't mean that you are not a good person if you have experienced things and you use that experience to create a small income.
Absolutely.
Like,
I mean, yeah,
there's nothing.
that's
I've had to reconcile that in my head. Like,
right.
why don't I just give this away for free? Like, everybody should just have access to this. And it's like, yeah, but the time that I spent to put this together is also worth something. So, figuring out what does that look like? Is it a subscription to my menus? Is it, a full catalog of all of that? Is it me offering, taking one day a week and offering coaching? I haven't gotten there yet. I don't know what that looks like. But
Well, I think
what it does look like right now is trying to create community where
right.
people have a resource.
And that's pretty much exactly what I was about to say. Like, this comes from a place of like, you utilized resources, but you had to work really hard in order to make that happen, both on the research side of things, finding the information, finding the recipes. But you had Dr. Ray. You mentioned, you talked about the resources that you had. You want to share those resources, but you also want to create a community where people don't feel like they're on an island like you did when you were walking through this process. And so I think the fact, for me, the fact that that's where you're coming from to start with, I'm probably the person that's been pushing you more than anyone. That's like, hey, you can create an income from this as well. That income doesn't have to come from creating the community. You create the community, and then if people want to dive deeper, that's where you can. Obviously you can sort that stuff out. But I think that's the piece that I really wanted to share with the listeners is like, hey, I've shared bits and pieces of our journey, through different people that Jack Beers has been on the show. Dr. Ray has been on the show. Renee Welk has been on the show, all talking about like health. And so, this is a big part of our life. And I'm just grateful for the time that you've spent on this because it's helping our daughter to live a healthier life. It's helping all of us to live a healthier life. So the fact that your heart is in a place to like, hey, I want to help more people. Like, that's the story that I want to tell my listeners is like, hey, she's doing some really cool stuff here and she wants to share it with other people. And the other piece that I want to highlight that I know you did, but I want to say it again, is like this autoimmune protocol. This process isn't just for people that have Hashimoto's. Like, what I've learned, probably the biggest thing that I've learned, I don't have something going on with me where I need to do this to feel better, but I feel better. Our food in the United States is garbage. And I don't want to get up on a soapbox and preach that too loud or like throw that in anybody's face. But like the stuff that they're putting in our food isn't good. But the fact of the matter is any autoimmune disorder that you have, you would benefit from trying to figure out what food is going to help you feel better. You hear a lot of people talk about gut health, and there's different supplements and stuff that can help with that. But ultimately, like the root of it is the food that you're putting in your body. I mean, a lot of different conditions can be not necessarily healed, but improved by eating healthier and putting healthier fuel into your body. So that's my little soapbox on why I wanted, Jess to come on here is because, like she said, our friend that's been doing it for 4 weeks is seeing huge results. She doesn't have Hashimoto. She's got fibromyalgia. How many people out there, how many people have have fibromyalgia, or their mom or their dad? Is that just a female thing? Does mom or dad have fibromyalgia and the doctor has said zero about your diet? probably anybody that that has fibromyalgia, their doctor isn't saying anything about their diet. So again,
Well,
I'll
and
step off my soapbox, but that's the main, you wanting to create a community, this being a benefit for not just people like Ari that have Hashimoto's, but a benefit for everybody. That's, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I will say too, like, again, and I could I could go on a tangent. But most doctors are not looking to find the root cause of your illness. So I would say, like, anyone with chronic illness, this is, no matter what the chronic illness is. Here's the funny thing, and we've got our health insurance stuff that we need to do some morning when we're fasting, that'll tell us kind of where our cholesterol and stuff like that is.
Biometric screening.
The biometric screening.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see the results of that this year, because we've been doing this for so long. But I will tell you, we eat so much nitrate-free bacon. And I would say that it'll be interesting to see how that shows in our cholesterol.
Our cholesterols have gone up. Yeah.
If it's gone up, or if it's actually gone down because our body isn't holding on to it, because it's able to process what we're eating so much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is something I'm going to be really interested in seeing. But yeah, doctors are not there to deal with the root cause. They are there to treat, to try and get your symptoms to go away. That's it. They're not
in
actually
many situations. There are doctors out there that
they're
are
not
trying
necessarily
harder.
trying to fix the problem. Yes. And it's not all doctors, right? But it is what they've been trained to do. I mean, if you think about how many people they have to see and all the things and the money cycle that is
unfortunate, but
unfortunate,
yeah, a lot of that's even out of there. I think even good doctors get caught in the system, and then they just have to do what they have to do. So,
I mean, we do know some really good doctors that don't get caught in the system, though, and I'm really, really grateful for that. Too.
Absolutely.
But there was something else I was going to say, and I can't remember what it was. That's okay.
Well, I am, like I said, I'm grateful for the work that you're doing, and I know that your heart is in the right place. And I hope that there's, listeners, if you've got somebody that would benefit from this, or if you would benefit from this, I would really encourage you to get in contact with Jess. And I guess, with that in mind, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you? Facebook page, like where's the best place to start?
Yeah. So Nourish and Heal with Jess, AIP for families. You can find me there. Just Jessica Kamerman on Facebook. If you want to add me personally, I post pretty much everything, both places. I'm an open book. Pretty much always have been my entire life. So what you see is kind of what you get. And so that goes for, my personal page has real estate. It's got AIP. It's got our family life. It's got all the things on it. And then you can email me, Jessica, spelled normally, Kay, Kamerman. Yep. So long. Kamerman, at gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on the show. Grateful to walk alongside you in this journey, and just to see how it's affecting our family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been incredible. And thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
Man, there's like so many other things I want to say though too, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like when I think about the things we've learned, like health is for the wealthy in this country. Gosh, there's so many lessons. And so I guess, the next piece of this might be how do I help families that maybe can't afford it figure out a solution to be able to do this too.
Yep. I love that idea. Awesome. Well, thank you again. And for everybody listening, keep pursuing your passions.
If you have questions or would like to contact us, please check out the show details for contact information. Thanks for listening to the Pursue Your Passion podcast.